Decades before computers were invented, one forgotten man described the internet almost perfectly. And when you hear what he imagined, you'll agree that he really was a genius. His name was Nikola Tesla, famous for competing against Edison and inventing AC current. But most people don't know about his other inventions. For example, this device called a radio was invented by Tesla in 1897. It could transmit signals over miles. Yet Tesla never filed a patent. Instead, he wrote this in a letter to a friend. This data can be transmitted without wires, and with such ease that the sending and receiving apparatus can be made as small as a pocket watch or even a ring. Imagine a ring that lets you call your friends or check your emails. Pretty crazy, right? Well, this is just the start. In this video, we'll look at 3 of Tesla's most mysterious writings. What did they predict? And why do some people believe that Tesla actually invented the internet? Let's start with the basics. Nikola Tesla was born in modern-day Croatia. In 1884, he moved to the US to work with Edison, but the two had many arguments. Eventually, Tesla left and started his own company. There, he focused on finding investors for his ideas, especially wireless communication. Many rich people invested into Tesla's projects because they sounded so incredible. For example, J.P. Morgan gave him $150,000 to build a tower in 1901, which would allow for wireless communication around the globe. Tesla spent all the money, but the tower never worked. Most of Tesla's inventions were never finished, though there is one exception. In 1893, he sent a letter to his friend and fellow inventor, Robert Underwood Johnson. The letter describes a series of devices that would change the world forever. Some historians claim that this letter describes the internet. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video. If you get value from this content, it will help the channel tremendously. Now back to the video. You see, back then, there was no internet, not even close. The telephone and telegraph were popular, but these could only send simple messages. They couldn't send pictures or sound recordings. Tesla changed that with his new invention. He called it a telegraphone. No, it wasn't a tape recorder. Instead, it was a system that could transmit and store audio recordings wirelessly. Tesla wanted to make a device that could send and receive messages instantly, without wires, from anywhere in the world. This idea seemed impossible, but Tesla was sure it could be done. Here's what he wrote to his friend. Suppose you are in New York and want to transmit a message, picture, or sound to a friend in London. All you need is a transmitter the size of a watch and a receiver the size of a ring. You can send messages instantly from any location to anyone else on Earth. When you look at this, it sounds ridiculous. How could something the size of a ring receive signals from thousands of miles away? Yet Tesla believed it could be done. He said, quote, "Wireless telegraphy is more than a possibility. It is a certainty." Unfortunately, nobody took him seriously, not even his friend Johnson. He thought that Tesla was crazy, so he didn't invest. Perhaps this is why Tesla never filed a patent for this device. He knew that it would be too expensive to build. At the time, he had bigger problems. In 1901, Tesla opened an exhibition in New York City. He told everyone that he would transmit electrical power wirelessly. People from all over the world came to see this, including bankers who gave him millions of dollars. Tesla gathered them in a room and announced that he would transmit energy from this machine to a receiver in his laboratory. Then he turned the machine on, but nothing happened. To make things worse, a reporter from the New York Times wrote about this event. He said that Tesla claimed to have invented an extremely powerful wireless transmitter, but that the demonstration failed. After this incident, Tesla lost his reputation. Investors stopped calling, and he was forced to close his lab. That's why we don't have a working version of this machine today. However, we can't ignore the fact that Tesla predicted the smartphone 100 years before we got one. Let's move on to another example. Here's a photo of a newspaper. Do you see anything strange? Of course, it has colorful pictures and text, but that wasn't unusual. Back then, every newspaper looked the same. This one is special because it was printed on a very thin material called celluloid. Celluloid was invented in 1862 by British chemist Hannibal Cox. It was one of the first plastics ever made.
Yet this material was very dangerous because it would often catch on fire. Nobody knew how to control its thickness, so the sheets were flimsy and sometimes burned for no reason. Most people forgot about celluloid until 1904. That year, Nikola Tesla made this newspaper in front of reporters from every major news outlet. But how did he do this? This is a photo of the actual machine he used. It looks like a big tube with a coil of wire coming out. This is actually a Tesla coil, a device that produces high-frequency electricity.
Tesla put a roll of celluloid inside this machine and then shot high-frequency electricity through it. The result? The world's first paper-thin newspaper. Even after all these years, this is still the thinnest newspaper ever printed. So why did Tesla invent this? Was it just to impress the media? Not quite. He wanted to show that celluloid could be safe. Tesla understood that if this material could be controlled, it would be perfect for newspapers and magazines. It would save trees and be much cheaper. Yet Tesla's invention backfired. Once again, the machine caught fire for no reason, scaring everyone in the room. Tesla immediately apologized, saying that he should have expected this. Afterwards, he decided to keep experimenting with this material in private, but he never finished a working model. Maybe one day someone will finish Tesla's work, and we'll have paper-thin magazines in our backpacks. Finally, let's look at the last piece of evidence. Why do some people believe that Tesla actually invented the internet? Well, besides predicting smartphones and paper-thin newspapers, he also invented the World Wide Web. Okay, maybe not exactly, but he did invent a kind of early internet. In 1901, Tesla built a special radio tower in Colorado. This was supposed to transmit electrical energy all around the world. Tesla believed that anyone could use this system to communicate instantly. But there was one problem. Scientists had just discovered that radio waves could only travel so far. They couldn't go around the curvature of the Earth. Tesla knew this meant his tower wouldn't work, but he didn't care. He continued building it anyway. In fact, here's what he wrote in a letter to his investors. Wireless telegraphy and telephony can be accomplished by means of waves of energy which may be projected and received without the use of wires, cables, or conducting networks of any kind, whether across the continents, oceans, or even around the world. One of Tesla's scientists witnessed this experiment. He later wrote about it in a book called My Inventions. Listen to this. He said, "My chief assistant and I were standing at the top of the tower and talking about the wonderful possibilities of wireless telegraphy. We took our hats off to get a good reception, and each held one of the hat bands in his hands. Suddenly, both of us were thrown violently to the ground by a tremendous shock. We looked at each other in amazement and surprise and rose unhurt. The same thing happened several times afterwards. Unfortunately, Tesla's tower was destroyed by a storm shortly after this." Tesla had proven that wireless communication was possible, but he never finished the project. Some people believe that this was because the US government was afraid of Tesla's power. After all, he had accidentally caused a massive explosion in his lab just a few years earlier. So maybe the government shut down his project to keep everyone safe. Or maybe they wanted to steal his idea and make it their own. Maybe they even erased records of this experiment so that no one would ever find out. Regardless, Tesla's vision was so advanced, the world wasn't ready to remember it. Now watch. Did Nikola Tesla just discover an alien UFO? Or check out Edison vs. Tesla, who was actually the better inventor. Thanks for watching.